me look. China. Morning, everybody. What's up? Yeah, you are getting a little bit of you're getting a little bit of action. Some of these China stocks due to whatever the China talks are going on. So you will see a little bit of action in some of these bad boys. Let's keep a few of them on the watch list. So out of the China stocks, you know, this Momo and JD are probably the two that are the closest on the bottoms that you can trade. Otherwise, the rest of them are just so-so. Decent amount of plays this morning. Let's talk about the gapper list. This AXSM. And good morning, everybody. Hey, Timmy Uzman, what's up? Funny, what's going on? This AXSM is creeping again this morning. This thing's going to be in play, could be in play today. You know, watch that high from yesterday. We had a nice shredder, and this is the chat room on yesterday for a quick little pop, but it may have it. The one thing is, you know, if it hits it the first time, it could be a double top. Usually, if you want to see a break, I like that you want to see kind of like multiple tests of that area before it goes. So we'll have to watch this thing. We'll have to watch this thing really closely because, yeah, in the end, it is a huge turd, right? Most likely, it'll be back at $1 in a few weeks, anyways. So these are just for quick trades. But I think overall, you probably keep it on your watch list. Not my top play for today, though. Roku, 42 million shares in volume yesterday, right? Big push. It actually remounted 3 different moving averages yesterday. Now it's going for the 200 SMA attack. At some point, if it gets over that today, I think it's going to have a little bit more juice. I can't long this thing like, say, like 45.50 because it may just run right into that 200 SMA, and then, right, you'll have a little bit of level of resistance. But if the range tightens up intraday, and then you start to break over it, I think you'll have something that we can keep an eye on. Look, you can't ignore the volume on it yesterday. 42 million shares. So this is a $3 billion company at $40 stock price, right? I mean, your amount of float is probably like 70, 80 million or whatever. It's got, it's got the range to really do some damage. Man, this PCG is such a little DTs. Yesterday it looked like the hand of the Lord was holding this thing up at 19 bucks. It was like all day there was a buyer just hanging around in the 19s, and then the SSR was on, so it's making it really tricky. And it looks like now they've got some kind of downgrade, junk status, blah, 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 blah. That 19 range has been taken out, and I'm wondering if the easy money's over on this one, at least for like the quick one. But the old low was 1770, so if this thing has like a quick spike at the open, hey, Can't Sleep, what's up, brother? Always good to see the ideas, too. I got the same list as you, besides meat. Let's let this thing spike up at the open because the SSR will be on, and then we'll be able to see how it reacts around that kind of that 17 mark at the old low. They're pricing this thing in basically for bankruptcy at this point. But, man, whoever released it at 19 is good to go. Man, that's a good man right there. So don't short this into the hole. So it's down 13%, right? It was down 20 yesterday. When you have SSR on a stock, you try to short it at the bid, you'll start to see it grind at a support level, and then, right, you get that kind of like that big one candle MPC. So you don't want to hit anything on SSR right at lows, because then, right, when you get the short sale restriction on Francisco, like you can get like these big $1 candles on it, and then like they kind of fizzle out later. And that's usually how SSR goes. I mean, sometimes they'll just tank, but more often than not, if they start to grind at a support level, they just start to kind of pop a lock a little bit. This UNP's looking nice. This is going to be a little bit slower moving stock. 700 million share float, blah, 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 blah. But it's got, its earnings out. It's starting to break over some moving averages and stuff like that. I think that this one shall be in play for us to play today. The one thing that happens, guys, when you have like a higher float stock, a thicker stock, right? You got to put a little bit more work into it, meaning like you can't chase a thick stock like that at highs, right? When you get a thick stock like that, you got to hit it on dips to support. Usually VWAP type areas are really good buys if it can hold there, because it's just going to move thick, right? It's going to be like molasses out there during certain parts of the day just due to the float on it. So be mindful of that now. Look, the good thing is, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, you could never trade high float stocks at all, not retail traders. But, with the advent of algos and stuff like that, algos are probably the best thing that's happened for day trading, at least in the last 5, 6 years, the way they've turned the juice on them. Because now you can trade like higher float stocks like NVIDIA and shit like that, and they actually move, right? And like, we trade like NVIDIA all the time. You would never see a stock like that with like a 600 million share float ever move. But now with all the algos coming in, right, they turn the jets on those things at the right spots. And you can still get good rips on them. So I do think it's going to have some range on it. You just don't want to chase this thing near highs, right? Wait for those intraday dips, and we'll get this thing going. This Maxer's had some earnings out yesterday, I believe, or they had some kind of news out. This thing's already gapping down again. I think this thing's going to be in play again. Because you're on kind of a day 2 gap down, you don't want to short it near lows. You'll have to let it pop. Watch it, see if it pops back to the 9 EMA or 20 EMA at the open. And then, right, you need some red candles to hold to see if it starts to roll over. If that happens, I think we're good to go. Overall, look, the market is looking pretty solid. We've had a nice trend over the last few days. The one thing to remember is don't get complacent. Even though right now the market's hot, a lot of stocks are firing off individually. And the individual stocks are showing better than the actual indexes. What we want to see with stocks is like, we want to see our former momentum names, our high beta names have a lot of juice. You need to see growth stocks, right, like your Netflixes and stuff like that, have big, big exaggerated moves that outpace the market, and you're starting to see that, right? You see something like a Netflix and something like that that really comes in hot like that. That's showing you that there's a healing happening in the market and that the action is really, really positive, even beyond what the indexes are showing. The one thing that we can't be too complacent about is there's a monster cock resistance coming over here. Sorry, I don't know why I say stuff like that, right? But there's a resistance coming over here at 160. And we're getting pretty close to that, so we'll have to be mindful of that. On the S&P, you got a little bit more room, 4 more points. So this 260 breakdown, that 260 was a big level that lasted for 2 months. Remember, like when you think about levels, right? The longer that support held, right, the more powerful it is. And so there should be some type of psychological but also price resistance level running around at that 260. If we get a quick spike up on that, we'll have to just be mindful that that could be resistance. One thing to remember about support and resistance, especially when you're looking at indexes, they don't go to like an exact line. Sometimes they do. But support and resistance is more about a zone, right? It's more about a zone of where things potentially could happen, that will happen. And then what we do, right, as day traders is we start to look on smaller term time frames to get the confirmation we need that that level is actually true and that it's going to hold. So we know that 260 is a big level on the S&P. That was the basing period for 2 months. Now, if we get there, it doesn't mean we're going to roll right over. But what we want to do is start watching on smaller term time frames. So go like on a 30-minute chart. 30-minute charts are very, very clean. For any of you guys ever, too, that are like over traders, you raise your hands. I know who you are. If anybody like really over trades or has like trouble seeing the action on smaller term time frames, move to a 30. You'll start to see really, really clean patterns, and you'll be able to see the big picture and a shorter term picture much more clearly, because the charts are just really smooth when you have 30-minute candles, because you take away a lot of the noise. So just kind of be mindful of that. Once we get to that 260, shorten the time frame. Let's see what's up and see. We got all this China talks, wall talks coming the next couple days, as we've already had, but right? Wait for, watch for the double Lutzy. Don't be too aggressive to the upside. Always keep raising up your stop losses, because we don't know exactly when, right, the next shoe could drop, because we've seen it happen before, right? Where it's like, we thinking everything's looking all good, and next thing you know, right, there's something comes out and we're just, poo-pooing all over ourselves, right? And so we'll have to watch these levels and just make sure that we're not being too aggressive. One thing, guys, to just be mindful of, I think top watches for today, still going to be Roku. Still going to be Roku. I want to see this $100 break on Twilio. Guys, this has been like a huge resistance level since November. Twilio is showing relative strength. So the market's been rebounding for like 2 days, right? This thing is at all-time highs. That's huge, right? That's a lot of relative strength. Usually the stocks that start to break out when the market starts to bottom, those become the next leaders of the next bull market. So always be mindful. What's going to be the next NVIDIA, the next Netflix, so on and so forth, right? The stocks that break out now while the market's still near bottom is usually a telltale sign of, right, something that's going to be on your list for months potentially. So keep an eye on this one. And then we still got, the usual suspects of Square. I did add this MTD on watch for potential short. It got dusted on some news midday. Right around noon. Had a pretty sick range on it. We'll watch this one for continuation. You saw a big volume push on it to the downside. I think that if we need a short, we could go with this one. And then, keep excess. This one had earnings out yesterday. The range was sick on it. It's already gapping up. So when something gaps up, you can't, you're only looking for two things, right? ORB or quick pullback buy intraday. You don't want to get anything too more complicated than that. So keep that on watch for that. And then, this AMD was really, really cooking. It's came in out of big long-term support. I've been eyeballing this trend line break for like 2 months, right? It finally took it out. That's going to be really a positive. Volume was okay. It always does 100 million shares. But I think those are going to be the plays. Roku, AXSM, PCG, and Twilio are going to be our number ones. So just be mindful of that. And let's do this. Let's have a little fun today. Guys, as always, if you're enjoying this stuff, give me a thumbs up on that YouTube so we can spread the word to the rest of the world. And we'll have a little bit of fun. I'll see everybody in the mañanas. As always, let's go do what we do. I'll be in the Bulls on Wall Street chat room. And guys, you guys will like it. I think in about a week, we'll be upgrading our chat room to some new software and stuff. So it's going to be pretty sick. So I'll see everybody. Let's go do what we got to do. Let's have a little fun.